Hello, everyone. I am back with yet another one of my 12 authors of Christmas. I told y'all I was bringing it this year, and that is exactly what I'm doing. Welcome, Shayla.
Thank you. I love the Santa ears or the
Thank you.
frosty ears.
Dollar Tree.
I need some. Yeah.
The Dollar Tree comes through clutch, let me tell you, especially when children let you know at 7 o'clock they have a project due the next morning at 8 o'clock.
Yes. No,
I'm like, oh my God, I'm running to the Dollar Tree right now.
I've been out here at 7 in the morning when the project's due at 8 in the morning. Like, wait, what do you mean it's due today?
Oh, my kids will get put out. They'll be looking for somewhere to live. I can handle a late night rush. I can't handle well, actually, we have had to stop by Walmart a few times and feed something to kids. Why do they do this to us?
I don't know. Because we let them, right? We put up with it.
We let them.
Now I'm out here at 7 in the morning, hot gluing things together.
Well, because they know Mama's gonna get it done. Like we just have to. So introduce yourself, Shayla.
All right, I am Shayla, or S.K. Bennett, the author of Marco the Great and the History of Numberville, with the enormous help of course, not just help in editing and all of the technical things, but also you were just a huge inspiration for even having the courage, to like actually sit down and write. Right? Like, if I wouldn't have met you, I don't know that it ever would have happened. So,
Shayla, I appreciate that.
yes. No,
But let's talk about what a phenomenal job you did.
Thank you.
So first of all, I think this is quite possibly the largest edit I've done. When you sent me the manuscript, I was like, she's got to be joking. It was like 110,000 words.
In all fairness, most math books are this big, right? They're huge. And so I had to try to fit all the good stuff in, a big book in this tiny thing. And I think that although it is very long, we did a pretty good job, of trying to get all the good stuff in a much smaller package with the fun stuff in there too.
With lots of fun stuff. So you are a math teacher.
Yes. That is.
And the History of Numberville is teaching basic algebraic principles through storytelling. So if you all can imagine, it's like Harry Potter meets the algebra book into a story. I was like, oh my gosh. Now, transparent moment, I took Algebra 2 twice because my brain just doesn't work that way. But when I read your book, you introduced it on such a basic level, I couldn't not understand. So talk to me a little bit about your inspiration for writing a math book as a story, like a real story.
Well, that was really like what you said was the goal, right? Was so many kids hate math. Math in all, I can't even tell you how many math books I have, textbooks I have. And they all are the same thing. Here are the formulas. Now copy what I did. And, and that just is a problem. Kids don't get it. And I wanted a way that was fun, but also helped kids to actually get it, like to understand why is that a rule? Why do we do that? Like, why does that make sense? Because that just gives them much stronger skills and abilities to do all sorts of complicated mathematics and science and all of that good stuff. And so that was really my goal. I wanted it to be fun and relatable and easy, where somebody could just pick it up and say, oh, this makes sense. Like, I understand stacking blocks, or I understand, having friends, and how can we make that make sense with the math concepts? That was the goal. And it was hard. It was a hard thing to do.
You executed it perfectly. I mean, wow. You created a whole world around numbers. Numbers were people. And even when you got to like the next, I was like, we're starting the number line at 0. And then she was like, nope, just joking. Here are your negative numbers. Here are your fractions. How long was this rolling around in your head before you were able to put it down on paper?
oh my gosh, years. When I homeschool my kids, and my daughter especially, she's 13 now, but she really loved the Magic Treehouse series. And she is not like a school kid, you know, she didn't enjoy any of the learning things. But the Magic Treehouse, she could read those, and then she would be like, "Hey, didn't you know that the Titanic was in 1912?" You know, like, and she would spout this stuff off. You should, like, how long it took her to learn the continents, right? Was like, it was painstaking, Carla. I can't even tell you. It was so she could not remember the continent. Like, she could not. But she would tell you specific facts about things from reading these books. Mm-hmm. And I was like, we need something like this for math. And I have so many. I bought every book on Amazon in the math fiction world. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them were math adjacent. You know, they were stories where you kind of had to do a little bit of math, or they were books, like textbooks. And there's nothing in between where you really had story, but then you learn math, and you learn all the math, you know, not just like, oh, look, we can add to do this, or, you know, we could solve this puzzle. And after not seeing it for so long, when my daughter hit 6th grade and really started struggling, and it was kismet, I feel like, because it was right after I met you too. I was like, wow, I'm gonna do this, right? I was like, Carla inspired me. I'd always had that book rattling around 6 or 7 years in my head. I haven't found anything that does it, and now my daughter needs it. Like, she needs it now. She's falling down the black hole. And she needs it. And I would say she went from like failing, like she did not well. She would be the first one to tell you on her math stuff. She is like at the top of her class. She beams about it. Math was her least favorite subject. Now I don't think it's her favorite, but it's up there. It's not her favorite anymore. Like, I have seen such a dramatic turnaround for her that, like, every time I hear about a kid who's read it and loved it and learned something, that is the greatest reward. But even just seeing my daughter, like, that alone was worth it, right? Like, how much she has done a 180, and how much she has grown in having this perspective from a story.
How long did it take you to, once you made the decision to write, how long did it take you to write it?
That actually went pretty quick. I would say like 6 months. So once I met you, and I was like, I'm going to write this story, and I started fiddling around with the ideas in my head, and I didn't really know what I was going to do. And then I substituted a class, and the way I talked about solving for X was really creepy. It was just that day, and these kids, it was like, you've got to get them alone. And, you know, like, that's it, right? That's it. That's the story. That's how we do this, you know, like, we've got to get this number alone. We're hunting it. We're trying to find who it is, and we need to rip off the mask and see who's hiding. And that, once I had that line, it was like those 8 years of ideas and you know, thinking about it, and all of the different influences finally converged, and I could see the story. And then it was just about putting it on paper and editing it again and again and again and
again. Right, because when you have that many words, it's kind of like, I tell people editing is like, there's a post that goes around social media once or twice a year, and it's a message, but the words are in letters and numbers. And it's like, if you can read this, then your mind is seeing what it's supposed to be, not what it is. And that's how editing is. You know what word is supposed to come next. So you have like a mental fatigue. So I'd have to edit 10,000 words and then take a break, and another 10,000 and take a break. But 110,000 words, creating worlds, creating characters, using rules from real life, but making them seem like they're a part of the worlds you created in 110,000 words in 6 months is phenomenal. I can't believe you finished it that fast. And for your first novel, that's crazy, Shayla.
It was so much work, but it was like, I feel like it's all my sort of life experiences when in there. It's like, I'm working on the second one, and I wrote this just this one line about, oh, I wish my English teacher had shortcuts. And I remembered immediately my daughter, my same daughter, the 13-year-old, this experience one time where she had to write an essay, and it was supposed to be, her paragraph is supposed to be 5 sentences, and she could only come up with 3. So her her idea was to go in and put periods in random spaces and capitalize to make it look like 5 sentences. And I'm like reading it, and all of a sudden it like stops, and then it's like the next sentence. I'm like, that's not 2
That's
sentences.
not it.
Like, so that went in the book, right? I was like, that's totally what Marco would do, right? Like, that's exactly what Marco would do. So I felt like I have my whole life to draw on, and not just my life, my kids' life, and
Right.
moments that I taught from students and stuff, and all of that would kind of like it's fun because it's like when you write a memoir, that's what you're doing. You're writing about your life, and you're really
Right.
think back. And I'm not writing a memoir at all, but I still got to do that. Like I still got to think about like what would my kids say in this situation, and then I'd be like, oh, that time I remember that, and so that really helped, right? Because I think that helps bring a ton of like realness to the characters, and
Yep.
also makes them really relatable because they
Mhm.
are like things that real people would or even might have said.
Right.
But it also is a fun exercise because I really got to just like go back through all my experiences and play with those, which was a lot of fun.
So let's put a pin in the character development part. It's not just all numbers. It's a novel about a boy who's struggling with math. So we get to see Marco in his environment. We go from learning Marco has a hard time and hates math to him being, this super, I don't even know what to call it, like a math wizard at the end. But how did you toggle back and forth between creating a character who is realistic, going through life as a middle schooler, but then also creating this world of math that is realistic but still fictional at the same time? How did you go balance the two?
It was really hard, and I think that I would also honestly say I think the first time it failed. So one of my favorite characters in the entire series is Maggie, and in my first draft,
Maggie's cute.
there was no Maggie. There was no Maggie in my first draft. She was
What?
not there. He didn't have a sister. And now that's like a huge, like it's a huge part of the second book. It's a huge part of the first book. But like that, she didn't exist, and it was something I really struggled with because one, I needed Marco to not like. I needed the main character to not be good at math. That was really important because I really wanted the book to be accessible to everyone. It wasn't for only kids who are good at math. Like I wanted the kids who hate math to be able to pick it up and like experience this fun world and get better at math and realize that it can be a lot of fun. And so I wanted it to be a really accessible character. And that was really difficult because I didn't want to play into any stereotypes. Like I'm a black woman. I couldn't make the main character a black woman because that's like, oh, girls aren't good at math, it would be playing into those stereotypes. And that was really a difficult thing of like, how do I balance that? And so that I think that's where it came from. It was like out of all of those struggles is how Marco, that character, really came to life to get through, to have his own arc within the story. And it was from that like failure. It was like, no, we need a strong female. We need a girl who's good at math, like we need to show that. And then came Maggie. And it was like it's just sort of all of those editing processes of being like, what is missing from this? And then going back and figuring that out and then adding that back in. I think that's how that I was really able to develop that. And I think I'm better at it for the second book than I was at the first because of that process. But there's a lot of like, this is missing, like why would this doesn't make sense? And what would drive him? I wrote little tiny like 2-page documents for each character with their background because I wanted to know like time they made a decision, I wanted to know how would they react in that situation. And I didn't know what their childhood was like, and I didn't know what happened before the book started for them.
Right.
I took the time to write it. Like I wrote a backstory for each character so that then it was much easier when I came to each situation because I know how they would act. I'd be like, oh, because they went through this before the book, before we started. And that helped a lot. I felt like that really helped to like clarify my thoughts and separate the characters.
I commend you for that because a lot of people, when they're writing novels, they don't develop their characters. They just kind of do it as they go. And you can see the holes, like when you're reading, and I was like, that doesn't make sense. I don't think she would have done that or said that or acted that way based on the way the character was built. So I commend you for that. And your characters are consistent. You see, you can notice the patterns. You can almost predict in the situation what's going to happen, but you also see the growth. You see the growth. I mean, Marco was amazing. You see Maggie being a lot more mature for her age, and I can't even imagine the book without her. Like when he tried to apologize, and she's like, "Oh, Marco," it was just like, wow, she really. She's wise beyond her years type of behavior. And then you see his mom kind of come full circle and make realizations of her own. So I can see now where you saying you did the work ahead of time. I can see how it plays out, because it really, you did maybe you missed your calling as a math teacher.
I love that.
We're gonna have to do some real marketing work around once this second book is out, because I think you are out here doing the Lord's work, teaching math.
I hope so. I think that's what I want. Our country's the math numbers are so bad, and like I just it pains when I hear so many kids hate it, or so many parents even, they're like, they will never use this in real life, and I believe that, yeah, I'm never gonna solve this quadratic equation. Like, I probably won't do that in my job.
Right.
But there's very few jobs that might actually need you to do that. But what it is it's like problem solving. It's learning how to connect this to that and how to recognize patterns. And so in learning those concepts, you're really like training your brain to make all sorts of good decisions, to make connections. Like even in writing, I see it, right? Like I see like everything you said is their relationships and their how the pieces fit together like a puzzle piece, how each character comes in and how everybody acts. Like that could be modeled mathematically, and all our ability to reason and to see those holes, like you said, that all comes from understanding numbers and how the world works together. And so I really, really want, I'd love to change that. I'd love more kids to love math and to see how beneficial it can be in developing our thinking and our problem solving abilities, just as like human beings as a civilization.
I can see you are so passionate about math.
Yeah.
You are like moved when you speak about it. That's so amazing. I'm like, what is 3 + 2? Chase, what's 3 + 2? He's like, Mom, are you serious? Yes. Do you want me to open the app, the calculator, or are you just going to tell me? So before we wrap up, my last question is about part 2.
Ooh, I'm excited.
So you said it's in progress. How many words do you have? And is it a continuation of Marco, or are we like learning new concepts?
So it's like it ends up being almost the exact same as book 1, which is kind of amazing. I didn't plan it that way, but once everything got ironed out, like nearly exactly the same size. So about the same word count, same number of chapters. It is a continuation of Marco and Maggie and Liam and Oliver, and it's a continuation of their story into algebra. So the first book was like pre-algebra, and now we're into algebra and algebra 1.
That was pre-algebra?
Yes, but I'm so excited. It's as much as it's the same story, it's totally different. Like the first story is I don't know how to exactly classify it, but the second story is a true adventure novel. Like it is a treasure hunt. They have found something and they need to go and figure out the clues and put the mystery together, and there are weird things happening, and it is a little bit, I guess, of a faster pace kind of thing, apocalypse sort of feeling. It's very exciting. I cannot wait for you to read it, Carla. I literally
Most math people are not this creative. I remember when I had a job once upon a time, I was a manager at a freestanding jewelry store. Do y'all have Jared out there, Jared Jewelers? So the store I worked at it's a nationwide store, but it's a smaller store called the Shane Company. And I could pinpoint somebody's occupation after about 5 minutes of interacting with them, just based on the questions they ask. Because certain people look for certain, like if they're doctors, they don't really care what the ring looks like. They just want a solitaire, but the quality of the stone is what's important. And math people, like accountants, math teachers, they were very much the same. They were just like quality. Okay, let's talk percentages. What's the girth? Are the facets, is the girdle polished? What percentage is the table? I'm like, oh my gosh, does it sparkle? What are you talking? Look at the colors in the diamond.
You just sounded like a math person. I hate to tell you, you sounded like a math person. You're talking about how you were recognizing the patterns in people's behavior and could make connections. That is math. That is math. You are a math person. You just didn't know.
I'm a math person when it comes to paying these bills. That's about it.
Oh my God.
So tell the people where they can find you.
Yes, I'm at mathbait.com. Of course, we are you can get the book on Amazon and a couple other places as well. And yeah, I mean, we are on a mission to make math fun and interesting and to get as many kids as we can on board. So please come see us.
Woo, you heard it here. So guys, please follow Shayla. Go buy a copy for yourself. Well, it's more for teens, but buy a copy for a math teacher in your life. Buy a copy for a teen or preteen, because it really is, it's exciting, it's adventurous. She's teaching basic math principles and building on those principles in a fun way that really engages children. So go see Shayla. Oh, wait, she's this way. Go see Shayla and tell her Carla sent you. Thank you so much, Shayla, for being a part of my 12 Authors of Christmas. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for everything, all your help and all your inspiration. I couldn't have done it without you. So
thank you.
You are making a difference.
All right, I'll talk to you later, hon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.